Writing update, y'all. So, I am currently drafting a horror novel. This is my very first one. And if you've seen my other video where I did my book haul, then you will see that I have two horror books, and I've been listening to some horror as well in audiobook format just to get into the vibes, get into the headspace, and also like understand the genre and know what the reader expects to see in that genre when they read a book because I don't want to let them down, right? So, most recently, I had this epiphany, and it has to do with character. And this is something that I wanted to discuss on my writing videos that I'm going to start posting here. And if y'all haven't seen my writing videos, y'all need to go ahead. I have one where I talk about a book blurb, and I have another one where I talk about POV. So go check them out. I'm going to link them here so that way you can click on them. But let's talk about characters because this has to do with the epiphany that I had on the draft that I'm currently going through when it comes to my horror novel, which I'm going to give you the title here so that way when you see it, you know it's coming from me. So it is The Devil That Haunts Me. But that wasn't the title. That was not the title. The title was something else. And I have had that other title for quite a while because I started drafting this novel, I want to say like 2 months ago. So here I am on the third month, and I am embarking on the second act. The second act is the meatiest act of a story. And the way that I write it, I do the three act structure, and I tend to kind of do a hybrid between Wired for Story as well as Save the Cat. And we can talk about that in another video. Nevertheless, I was embarking on Act Two. I was literally jumping into Act Two, and I was like, well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I was like, this story is not about the daughter. I was so focused on the daughter. I was like, it is the daughter, it is the daughter. The daughter is the one that gets hurt by the mom. She is the one that comes back as a ghost and is a vengeful ghost and is gonna like just avenge the way that this mom has treated her. And I was like, yeah, that's the one that I'm gonna follow. That's gonna be my main character. That's gonna be my POV character. And I was so wrong. I was so wrong. I was so wrong. She may be my main character, right? What the story is about, because the story is about her. But she's not my POV character. She's not the one that's going to drive the story forward. It's going to be the mom. Because it is the mom that I'm going to follow. So that way we can see through her what has happened to the daughter. And she is the one that's going to be able to show the reader that what has happened to the daughter happened because it happened to her first and she didn't heal from it. Because this story is all about generational trauma and how if you don't heal it, you're going to pass it on to your next generation. And that is why when I had that epiphany and I discovered that, I was like, shoot, I have the wrong title. This is not the title. The title was you didn't kill me, mother, but you might as well have. So you see how that title was very much geared towards the daughter. And when I had the epiphany, right, and I was on that very first scene on Act Two, and I was like, this is not about the daughter. This is about the mom. And then right after I had that thought, the next thought was like, oh shoot, I have the wrong title. And right after that one, it came to me and it was like The Devil That Haunts Me. Because at the end of the day, that's it. That's what's haunting these two ladies is the trauma that follows them. And in turn, my title became something that is layered, something that is complex, because we're not necessarily talking about the biblical devil here. Is the devil a person in my story? It's many people in the story. It is many people that have hurt these women, but it is also the sum of not just the people, but the experiences that they have allowed to stay in their heart and to stay in their soul. And they have allowed those experiences to change them for the worse, as opposed to them working to heal themselves from it. And at the end of the day, it is the daughter that goes about the wrong way to heal herself, and she goes about it through revenge. And that's, in essence, what the story is about and why it is a horror. So you will see in there when you read it the atrocities that they go through, and also how that hate is just flipped back on each other just because they haven't healed themselves yet. And it is there's some parts that are tough to write. I'm not even gonna lie. Hence why I had to get a playlist and everything to get into that headspace. But I like how it's pushing me. I like how it's helping me create something completely different than what I've created before. I have done military thrillers, I have done a domestic thriller, I've even done a psychological thriller. I did a YA short story, and most recently I did a middle grade. None of my stories are happy go lucky stories. Let me just be brutally honest here. I am a happy person, but I'm a happy person because I've gone through a lot of things. And these are the things that kind of just ooze out of me in these stories. Nevertheless, all of my stories thus far have been resilient and have had a little nugget of hope, a little at the very least. The middle grade has a lot, but I think because it's a children's book, it merit that in there. This one is the one where I am embarking on a negative growth arc for the mom and for the daughter. And now, since I just shared that with you, then let me give you a little bit of info, because it wouldn't be me if I pass on this info, right? That I've learned by reading craft books and by going through the MFA in creative writing through National University. So, I told you that I have a POV character and I have a main character. Main character is the daughter because this is her story. But the POV character, I'm not going to flip you off, okay? I almost did it. The POV character is the mother because through her, I can push the story forward. She's the only one that I can do it. And I had that epiphany because I answered myself that question as I was drafting. She's the person to push it forward because she's also the person through which I can show what I need to show so the story can make sense. So the reader can understand that this is a trauma that happened to her first. And then it happened to her daughter because no healing happened in that family. So that's why she's my POV character. But the story is about the daughter. She's the one that is seeking revenge. She's the one that became a vengeful ghost through some occult means. So this has some paranormal aspects to it as well. So that's the differentiation there. And I just wanted to explain that. So that way, when you're embarking in your story or your manuscript novel, whatever it is, and you're looking at your characters, you can have those two prominent characters. One can be the main character, which is what the story is about. The other one can be a POV character, which is what drives the story forward. And this is a great example. And I just wanted to share that so that way I can use it as an example in case you are embarking on something similar. But what we see most of the time and what is more familiar to us as readers is that they're one and the same. The main character and the POV character are one and the same. That is usually what we see. They're the ones that drive the story forward, and they're also the hero of the story. They're what the story is about. And that is okay. Either way, it's okay. And that is like most of the time, we as authors, we focus a lot on that character or those two characters, POV and main character. And I remember reading on a page that I follow the question, should I have a questionnaire for all of my characters in the novel? And I didn't answer. I wanted to answer yes. But then again, I'm pretty sure everything is different. But here in this video, since we're talking about characters, I'm going to give you my 10 cents when it comes to this. I would say yes. I would say that every character that you present to the reader should be a full-fledged character. And let me explain why. And I'm going to quote Ernest Hemingway here when I say this. Take this with a grain of salt because Ernest Hemingway is very all or nothing kind of person. And we all know, right, from living our best lives that not everything is all or nothing. Sometimes things are right in the middle where they should be. So he said, when it comes to characters, start with a real person and you end up with a character. Start with a character and you end up with nothing. It's not verbatim. It's kind of like, the gist of what he said when explaining about characters. So what does he mean by that? That means that to create something that is realistic, that is as familiar to humanity as possible to a reader, you need to start with something that is real, with something that is human. So that's why I say, should all the characters in the novel have a questionnaire? And I say yes, but I say it in a way to explain that all those characters should be intrinsically known to the author. You should know who that person is. And I'm going to say person because that's how we as authors should be looking at them. So that way the reader can look at them that way as well as they're reading about this person in the book, whether it's nonfiction or fiction. It should be very real. And that's why it's important to start with something that something that is humanistic in them. Now, whether you do these questionnaires that are 100 questions where you know everything, their favorite color and all of that, that really is up to the author, what they want to know about that person. For me, what I want to know about my characters is what's inside of them. I'm not big on how the characters look and the physical aspects of them. I usually point out in my stories just a few key things about their appearance. That's it. What I like to know the most about the characters that I portray, that I show the readers in my story, is their inner works. What makes them tick? It is mostly trauma, what they have experienced, what are their likes and dislikes, whether it's food, and why. Why is it that they hate it? Do they hate onions because their step parent made them eat it until they barf? These are things that I want to know. If they have curly hair, and I'm giving them an experience that I share, which is like, I hated my hair as a kid because I didn't know how to do it. And I grew up in a culture that loves European beauty standards. So to them, this was pelo malo because it's not straight. It's not feathered straight, right? Um, so that's something that I can give a character and I can say, that's one of their traits. They hate their hair, because they don't know how to work it and things like that. So you see, these are things that I want to know about the characters that are in my story because that way I can present them in a more humanistic way to the reader. Because at the end of the day, that's what the reader is going to hold on to. Because we are human beings reading a story about other human beings, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, right? We are reading about other human beings and we are reading about all these great things, horrible things, or things in the middle that they're doing, that they're accomplishing. But at the end of the day, a reader hooks onto a character because they see the humanity in them and also because they can relate. Their humanity relates to the humanity in that character. So that's why I say, like, every character the author should know personally. I'm not saying that you know what their favorite piece of clothing is or anything like that, but you should know it in a way where you know somebody that you love or somebody that you hate. You should know them that well. Like, you know what I'm talking about, okay? You know your frenemy. You know them very well because you know why you hate them so much, right? And then you see them at school or in the supermarket, like, "Hey, how are you?" And then you say murmur something underneath your breath, and be like, "Mm." You see, these are real life characters. This is what makes the reader be like, yes, oh yes, I get you. I get you. I know why you're doing that because I've done it too, or that has happened to me, or somebody did that to me. So, yeah, so writers, when you're out there and you're crafting these characters, do what works best for you. And that is with everything that I will share, with everything that I share when it comes to the writing craft. I do what works for me. You do you, boo boo. You do what works for you as well. Okay. But just understand those piece of nuggets that we as readers, and look at yourself as a reader as well. What attracts you to a character? Add that in there. Add that in there because there's other readers that are just like you, that are getting attracted to what you get attracted, that are getting pissed off at what you get pissed off about when it comes to these characters. And you want your readers to have these big emotions when it comes to your characters, when it comes to your stories. You want them to have those emotions because that's what's going to keep them coming back, and that's what's going to keep them turning the page and all those great things. So that way you can get your book read. Okay. So think about that and let me know in the comments. Do you do the questionnaires? Do you do other things to get to know your characters? I have done astrological signs. I have done, what is it? INFGF. I don't know what that is. That test, right? That tells you that you're an introvert or you're that, or blah, blah, blah. I've done that. Like I said, I've done the things that let me know the inner works of a person, as opposed to the physical aspect. For me, the physical aspect is easy. I can just like look. I usually look at Pinterest or look at celebrities and be like, "No, okay, I like this about her. I like that about her. Okay, I think that fits that character, right? Or I think this fit this character." But what I really drill down on is just the inner works of that character. So that's why I do those tests: astrological signs, the introvert or extrovert test, and then I give that to them. I've gone as far as to giving them birthdays, so I know how was the moon, what planets were aligned, so that way I can get some sort of personality off of them, and off of that personality, then I tailor their dialogue. Okay, so think about that too, because I mean, if you're crafting somebody that is shy, how do shy people usually talk? Don't they like keep a lot more to themselves as opposed to say it externally? Wouldn't they have more thinking dialogue in there, more internal monologue in there in their book, right? As opposed to a lot of talking? I have Mrs. Franchi, Mrs. Franchi's Evil Ring. She talks a lot when she rambles, kind of like me when she gets nervous. She rambles. So you see it. And even my editor, she was like, "Oh, she's a rambler." When she was going through my manuscript and doing the developmental edit, and she was like, "Oh yeah, she's a rambler." But she was like, "But yeah, but you may want to put a period here because I had run-on sentences to show that she's a rambler." And we doctored that up a little bit, right? We added some more punctuation in there so that way it doesn't read as a run-on sentence. But yeah, but that's how I showed it, through dialogue. So think about that. That's why it's so important to understand your characters as if they're real people and treat them as if they're real people. So that way everything that comes out of them is as realistic as possible. Because while it's fiction and it's fantastical, right? At the gist of it all, we are going to tether to that humanity in it. That's why when you read stories that are even like the main character is an animal or is innate object that has like supposedly no feeling or anything like that, we tether to it because the author ties humanity elements to it. Have you thought about that? Finding Nemo, anybody? It's a fucking fish, right? But the fish has feelings. The fish has a fucking personality, just like a regular human being, right? Hello? The Lion King? Pumbaa? You see what I'm saying? So I encourage you, make them as human as possible. Okay, and I'm gonna stop rambling. That's it. That's it. Look, my laptop is dying on me. Thank you for sitting sitting here with me and listening to me chat about characters. Let me know if anything else that you want to know about characters, or if you disagree with me, or if you agree with me, or if there's something different that you do. Leave me a note on the comments. Let me know. I appreciate you for watching this video. Please come back for more. Don't forget, like, share, and subscribe so I can continue making this content for you. Thank you.